go.
Now we're ready.
Double, triple check.
We're back.
Recording.
We're back. I'm trying to get the young nephew back on a consistent publishing schedule.
A consistent diet of seeking wisdom.
Okay. What are we talking about today? Are we getting 6-star reviews today?
Is the notify thing broken in Slack?
I think it might be.
It has to be broken.
Yeah. We'll check on that
I
later.
haven't gotten an email from you in a while, like forwarding the pod.
6-star reviews, even though we've been launching build. We've been launching new exceptions. We have some
Shout
other
out
new
to
channels.
Jay. People are big fans of Jay Acunzo, man.
And
Jay's got a following.
And
Maggie.
Maggie's and we have some new stuff coming that we haven't launched yet, so we should launch that soon.
Man.
We have a backlog of that stuff.
We got some stuff.
New channels, but we don't have any 6-star reviews. So I'm going to hold the new channels that we're about to launch hostage.
Move. Hold them hostage.
Until I see some 6-star reviews. Sorry, I'm stuttering.
Yeah.
6 stars.
I got to be... Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Hold them hostage. Mm-hmm. People want the original. Mm-hmm. You know, like I think we excited about the new channels. Mm-hmm. And then we got excited about the new channels. And then you had a sabbatical, which... You know, people want more DC.
Unbelievable. You thought they were gonna say no, huh?
Yeah,
I was hoping they said
I
no.
was like, what? They miss DC. They
like,
want,
really?
They want the wise words,
well,
which is good.
Not everyone sits 2 inches from me all day long and gets 50,000 messages from me all day.
I was
so
thinking
you forget
about that
sometimes.
the other day. I was thinking about it's been 2 feet. I've been 2 feet away from you for a long time now. A long time. Every time we find a way, we move offices, I find a way. DC's directly next to me, in front of me, whatever. Yeah. Fun fact about DC, knock on wood, never seen him be sick. It's just unbelievable. Aaliyah said the same thing. He's never seen it.
G2, listen to that.
The immune
Aaliyah
system.
has been watching me for 11 years.
He said he's never been sick in 11 years. And he has
2
these
kids.
secret tablets on his desk.
I have 2 kids.
Yeah.
I'm around kids. I'm going. I'm moving. I'm shaking.
I don't know what it is.
I've got gray hair.
There's some secrets.
Undefeatable.
Some secrets, man. Undefeatable.
Mm-hmm. You know why?
Yeah.
Do you know why, G2?
Why?
Speaking of G2. Because I will not allow myself to get sick.
I saw it once. It got him.
I got it one time.
He got bit once.
In 11 years.
I have a question before we talk about the real stuff. We were talking about intermittent fasting before. Mm-hmm. I'm on it right now.
Yeah.
Leah thinks it's crazy.
Explain what intermittent fasting
is. Intermittent fasting is eating within a time-constrained window. And so the most common one is 16 and 8. And so you eat during an 8-hour window, which is, for me, is 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then you don't eat between the hours of 8 p.m. and 12 p.m.
Yes.
And it's supposed to be, you know, it's crazy. I watched a bunch of stuff on it. Like Joe Rogan had some interesting stuff on it.
Yeah, lots of it.
He talked about like, and it was for me, it was seeing people who are very well in shape and in very good shape doing this. Mm-hmm. And it made me think like, you know, we're in this constant state of like, you just constantly feeding your body and you don't need to do that. Mm-hmm. And I also, it's the main reason why I want to do it. So number one is, I've been having because I get up really early, and so I've been having a hard time. I eat a lot of shit late at night. Yeah. And that hurts me because then I got to get up in like 6 hours after that. And then that's not good. But also I've been so busy that I just haven't had time, and I want to try to find a way, like, how can I still be healthy and maintain being busy? And I'm typically busy between the time I get up, I go to the gym, I come home, I hang out with Annie, I come to work, and like by then all of a sudden it's lunchtime. And so I wanted to see, is there something that can fit this schedule anyway? And then I saw, this might actually be perfect. Intermittent fasting is that way I can eat from 12 to 8. So
so I've done it a lot in the past.
Yes,
I did it for a couple of years before, and I'm back on it right now. I've been doing it for 3 weeks. Yeah. But I want to explain.
I remember you intermittent fasting when we were in our old office. There was a place we would always go to for Greek salad and grilled chicken, Desfina's. Shout out to Desfina's. And you would always be on the verge of passing out on the way to get Desfina's.
Because I would always fast in the morning. But I want to tell you a difference here between DG and I. So he's doing the intermittent fasting, and I want to explain one difference here. DG is, and this is the explanation between a fat person, myself, and a thin person, naturally DG. So DG struggles to put on weight.
Correct.
Right? And he is one of those people, and he just mentioned it in what he was talking about there. He's one of those people that forgets to eat.
Correct.
Air quotes.
Correct.
I will let you know that I've never forgotten to eat in my entire life. Not one time. I have not once in my entire life. I don't even understand the concept when I hear people like DG say like, you know, I was so busy that I forgot to eat.
All of a sudden it's 2:00. I'm like, oh shit.
That's never happened to me one time.
I feel weird.
My whole day I'm thinking about when will I eat? And that is probably why I'm a fat person.
Okay.
All right.
So you're on the train. You've been doing it for 3 weeks.
3 weeks I'm back on it, but I'm from the opposite end of just like how to constrain my calories, not because I'm not thinking about food.
Yes. I think it's both. There's a lot of benefits. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Can't have
but today, DG and I both had 2 lunches.
We had 2 lunches. We doubled down. We had 2 lunches.
2 salads.
They call it tate. I can't say it. I call it tatty. This is not an ad. Anyway, I'm going to put you on the spot today, my friend, because this is something we've probably talked about early days of Seeking Wisdom, but you talked about this at our company meeting yesterday, and it's about managing your career at a high growth company. And so I actually brought you, thanks to G2, he hooked us up with a whiteboard.
Ooh.
I actually want you to draw, and this is why we're doing this on YouTube.
Yep.
I want to turn this over to you, and I want you to explain, because here's the deal. We talk a lot about I want to talk about career stuff. We haven't gone there in a while. We're talking about a new phase for us at Drift, and we're talking about managing your career at a company that is growing very fast. And I want you to talk about the different phases that people go through.
Sure. So I'm drawing right here. So this all this
is also a hack to make you watch us on video
and subscribe, and then hit the little bell button on YouTube so you get notified.
Bing.
But back in the day, in the early days, pre-Seeking Wisdom, if you can imagine such a day, DG and I used to have these meetings where he was the only marketer on the team.
Correct.
He had just come on, and I was kind of explaining to him, like, how he could set himself up to grow, right, as the company was growing. And I said to DG that what happens most of the time is that a company, and I'm drawing this out, a company usually, if it's growing quickly, will grow faster than the individual. And so I'm going to draw that out now. And so what usually happens is, and we're talking about companies experiencing hypergrowth. So here I'm drawing, the top line here is the company, and the bottom line here is the person with my little stick figure right here. And what I'm drawing here is that over time, if a company is undergoing hypergrowth and a person is not able to keep up ahead of that growth, which is a daunting thing, which is a normal thing to happen.
Also, not a negative thing.
Not a negative thing. It's normal. This is normal. Then a gap will form between the 2 growth paths, and the company will have to start to bring in more people who have that experience who can fill that gap.
Yes.
Right? They may be more experienced. They might have different experience. They may, have more years doing the same thing. It depends on the problem. But this is usually what happens in a hypergrowth company. But if you're in a slow-growing company, which is also normal, right? The company could grow, and I'm going to use the letter C for company, slower than the individual. Again, I'm going to have my beautiful stick figure here. So in this case, the individual is growing faster than the company. And in those cases, what happens is that's a growth-oriented individual who happens to be growing faster than the company that they're in. They will typically leave that company and go somewhere else for opportunity because they're growing faster.
You see this a lot of people leaving, 1,000-person public companies and joining, companies like, early stage startups, right?
Like
that's
Drift.
why. That's what they want.
Not because there's anything wrong with those companies, not because they didn't have a great career there, but because the growth opportunities were going away and they were growing faster than the company.
Well, and usually in a company like that, okay, hey, you do this for 6 months, then you get a raise and a promotion. You do it 6 months again, and now you're manager, senior manager, whatever, all the way up.
Yes. And then the last thing, which is super rare for this thing to happen, almost never happens. So don't get down on yourself if this isn't happening to you, because this almost never happens. And that is what I've drawn here, which is the company is experiencing hypergrowth and the individual is experiencing hypergrowth, and they are actually growing slightly ahead of the company in their own personal growth, right? And what that means is they're able to continue to jump into bigger and bigger opportunities because they are ahead of the needs of the company. Now, this almost never happens, right? And I was telling a story today. We did some onboarding with some new drifters. And I explained this to them, and I said, this is why we hear so many stories of, founder CEOs like Jeff Bezos or Zuckerberg or, Bill Gates or whoever you want to choose, or Steve Jobs or any of these people that we kind of hold up there, or Sarah Blakely, who runs Spanx.
Yes.
Who I love her Instagram, by the way. You should subscribe. And to her husband, Jesse.
And Jesse.
Itzler. But anyway, why they are worth talking about is not just because they founded a great company and whatever. Point. It's because what they've done is so unusual to go from some person like Sarah Blakely, who started this Spanx billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company, out of the back of her car with, I believe, $5,000 savings, right? No savings, no investment, and built this multi-billion-dollar brand, and is still running that multi-billion-dollar brand years later, because that never happens.
Right.
I'm not talking about a company being created that's worth billions. That barely never happens. But a company that goes from nothing to billions, and the same person can run it when it was just one person, an idea, and now that it's a huge international company.
And what's crazy is, like, if you unpack those people, Bezos, Sarah Blakely, Zuckerberg, right? It's easy to say, yeah, they're really freaking smart and they learn faster than everybody else. But I think it's, if you look at the teams around them, they early on, right? Like, look at the team Zuckerberg built around him. You've shared that graphic with us where there's something about, like, the senior management team at Facebook all has an average, the tenure is like a decade, right? And so obviously he found the right team early on.
And it has continued to scale and offer growth opportunities so that those hyper-growth individuals can continue to grow. That's this graph that we have right here. This is highly unusual. And what usually happens, which hasn't happened on Facebook yet, which is a great example, is that even if this happens for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, at some point, either the company or the individual starts to flatten out.
Yes.
Totally normal, right? Like, this is like infinite growth.
Well, because the company, then there's 5,000, 10,000 employees.
Yeah. You know? We're drawing here like an infinitely growing company and individual. So what happens is it flattens down, and again, you get back to one of the first two graphs, which there's a mismatch. Either you grew faster than the company, or the company grew faster than you. In which case, in both cases, there will be some kind of change that happens.
Yes.
This is an important concept that I wish some old uncle with gray hair in his beard would have told me a long time ago. It saved me a lot of pain in my career, but no one had told me this. Like, because usually when you're going through this and you don't have enough context and history, you think like, oh, they're just bringing in people because they're older, or they're more senior, or like, they're not giving people a chance, or whatever the company is. And that might be true in some companies. But usually if you take ownership of this, extreme ownership, as our friend Jocko, who will be joining us September 4th in Hypergrowth in Boston.
He will.
Please get your tickets. Would say if you take extreme ownership.
We're doing a meet and greet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
So you can meet Jocko.
You can meet you. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So someone like him would say, like, take extreme ownership of this. And when I started doing that and started to analyze what I had been seeing in my own career and people around me, it was one of these three scenarios.
Yes.
Where it was both the company and the individual, and then were they in sync from a growth standpoint, or were they out of sync from growth?
I also think of something that you talked about a lot on this podcast with this, which is the mindset of abundance, and versus scarcity, right?
Yes, because a lot of people. So if you go back to this chart here, a lot of people, and the growth-oriented one, but a lot of people will see when there's a mismatch, right, as things being over. So in the case where the individual, where the company is growing faster here than the individual, and say they don't get the next promotion, and they bring someone in from the outside, a lot of people will look at that in a fatalist way and say like, oh, that's it. They're never going to get promoted here. I'm done. I got to go somewhere else. This is no bueno. I got to get out of here, right? Instead, what you need to do is think in abundance and say, wow, wait, this company is growing faster than I am. Is there an opportunity for myself to set myself up for the next promotion, the next growth rate? So I missed this first step. Can I do anything to achieve a step function in personal growth so that I end up being ahead of the company when it takes its next step
I love
function?
that might be the most valuable lesson from this podcast, right? Which is the mindset of like, can I learn from this person? Is that going to take me to the next level?
That's right. And can I take advantage of that person that may have come in to take that next step function that brings you slightly ahead of the company growth, so you're ready for the next thing, right?
I love it.
You got to have an abundance mindset. You have to be an optimist. I'm an optimist, although you can't tell on most days, right? But I am super optimistic. And I was telling
you are an optimist.
I am an optimist, yes. But I'm always giving feedback, as G2 knows. So it's hard. It's hard to feel optimistic.
We can share the book title. The book title. This is Gonzalo came up with this idea. The biography that we're going to write about you is going to be called Anticipating Feedback.
Yes. I like that title. So I was telling, anyway, I got in some wild tirade daily, as I do daily with Elias, on something. And he was telling me that I was pessimistic. He's like, you're a pessimist. Then we're going back and forth. Then finally, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm an optimist. And he's like, oh, yeah, you are. You're a crazy optimist. But here's why he said, because if you weren't a wild optimist, a super optimist, you probably would have jumped off the building by now. That was, in Elias speak, that was some sort of compliment. I'm hoping that it got lost in translation.
My take on your optimism is the reason I know you're an optimist is because the goals you set are they never feel like achievable goals.
Did you see who's stuttering?
It's true. That's my take on DC's optimism. And
I believe we can do them.
More often than that, he's usually right, which is the true thing about goals. And that if you go back and you read 7 Lessons on Wealth and Happiness from Jim Rohn, he had the idea that goals are like magnets and they pull you towards 100%. Where you need to go.
100%.
A goal does not mean, well, I don't know how to get there. No, it's the fact that you set the goal that is going to pull you there because you have to then think about the goal. You don't need to plan. Yeah. It's the reason, and that's what I realized. I'm glad it took me a while to learn it, but now I know it. And the reason that you set big ass goals for us as individuals and the company is because if you set anything else, you're going to you always say this, you say you get what you play, like you get what you play to.
Exactly. And I'm not an elaborate planner like DG is and lots of other people around me, which is good. That's why I need compliments. Sure. But I've always used that technique of setting, like Jim Rohn says, setting these big goals. Yeah. And since I'm not an elaborate planner, I don't even know how I'm going to get to them. And I don't even know on a day-to-day basis how I'm going to get to them. But because I've set that intention, like I'm going to get there, this magnet for me, I end up doing the things that I need to do each day to get me to that goal almost subconsciously. Yes. Now, I'm not advocating that for everyone. Like most people need a more stepped out kind of plan and thinking on that stuff. But for me, that is why it's worked for me and why I continue to set big goals, because that's the only way you're going to achieve them.
I love that. I think that's why you're an optimist. Okay, so you know what I thought of while you were saying this? I think we should give people, this is a great lesson. We got to do more of this. This is whiteboard. This is the core Seeking Wisdom to me. Yeah. This is what this is about. Whiteboard. Thanks G2 for the notebook. I tried to take credit for this, but I can't. I think there's like this is kind of like a wine pairing. I think there's a book to pair with this episode.
Well, on this one?
Yes.
Well, there's several.
I have one in
Managing
mind.
Oneself.
That was the one I was going to say.
Come on. That's an OG book there. G2, have you read Managing Oneself?
I got to get a copy for him.
That's a problem.
Yeah. 40 pages.
It's 40 pages long. Yeah. Okay. I know you're into video. I know you're a visual thinker. Okay. He reads. It's only 40 pages long.
I'm going to get it right now.
You should reread it. We probably have copies in the office, but you should reread that book every 4 to 5 years. You read this book. It is a fundamental book, right? I read it all the time. It's like a little pamphlet. You could read it in 30 minutes.
Game
okay,
changer.
G2? Yeah. G2 is looking at me, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, G2 is the master, the wizard, the man who makes the video happen. Yeah. Hopefully he makes me look younger on these here cameras. And I've been asking him for a little while about a Slimify filter, but he has not come through. So if you happen to be listening and you know about a Slimify filter that we could use for this, please hook the uncle up.
So that's the book, Managing Oneself. That's all I got.
How much does it cost?
It costs $9.40. 40
Pretty good.
pages. Timeless book you can read.
Yes. So that's by the homeboy, Peter Drucker.
Yes.
Get that book immediately.
It's also, I've seen it. It's in a lot of airports now.
Really?
Yeah, because Harvard Business Publishing or whatever has this like spinny kind of kiosk thing, and it's there with a lot of the other.
Because that used to be,
probably.
You had to used to dig in the crates to get that book.
Until I
popularized it, until I told the people about that and got them on there. Yeah. Harvard Business Review, please send me a gift.
Please. Yeah. What are you talking about? You're an entrepreneur in residence. Don't you have some connection there? Are they not related?
Yeah, they don't give me any books for being HBR entrepreneur in residence.
I have a confession.
What?
I hadn't read Total Recall.
What are you talking about? If you go back to the early days of Seeking Wisdom, so go dig in the crates. One of the first few book reviews that I ever talked about was the foundation, the fundamental, the Bible, which is Total Recall. Okay? Yeah. Total Recall, if you don't know, is both the name of a movie, but more importantly, much more importantly, the name of a fantastic book by Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. Okay? And this book, I can't see. This is why you have limiting beliefs, because he hasn't read this book. This book, Total Recall, buy this book immediately. Tell him I sent you.
It's also $9.52.
Yep, and this is a fantastic, if you're not into reading, this is one of the few fantastic audiobooks. So you read this or listen to this book.
Does he do it?
Yeah, this is a man.
He does the audiobook?
Yeah, this is a man who has manifested. Actually, I don't remember. I think he does. It's been so many years. But this is a man who's manifested his own destiny. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, over and over and over again. This is a man who, not to get off on Arnold Schwarzenegger here, but this is a man who, when he was in Vienna, Austria, as a little boy, at some point decided that he was going to be Mr. Olympia.
Yep.
Right? Trained himself every day, became not one time Mr. Olympia, but the greatest Mr. Olympia ever. Right? Moved to the United States, could not speak English, figured out. Decided while he was training, before he was Mr. Olympia, before anyone knew him, decided that he wanted to learn, he wanted to be a real estate owner, right, in the United States. And he is one of the largest. And what he did was he went out and he always seeked out mentors. This is why this is a fundamental book to Seeking Wisdom. So he found a mentor to teach him how to buy real estate, how to sell real estate. And he is still one of the largest real estate owners in Santa Monica, L.A., this Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he learned that. Then, that, and a lot of his wealth came from that, continues to come from that. Then he decided at some point that he was going to be an actor. And he went and he auditioned, he told people about it, and they laughed in his face, and they say, no one can understand you with that accent, you're never going to be an actor. And they said, you need to change your name, no one can spell that Schwarzenegger name, and you'll never be an actor. What did he do? Once again, he found the best mentors out there, went, dedicated, spent years. And he didn't do what most people do today, which is like, that sounds cool. DC, can you send me a link? You can't even get a link?
No.
Like, if you can't even go get the link, like, you're in trouble, right?
So I'll figure it out.
This guy figured it out, pre-internet, found a mentor, and again became, as we know, a blockbuster hit guy. Yes. And even when he was Mr. Olympia, right, one of his things that he tells in the story, before he became Mr. Olympia, was that the dig on him was that he had no calves, right? He had very small calves. And so what did he do? He found a mentor, Reg Park, who had tremendous calves down in South Africa.
Yeah, he was.
Can you imagine that?
He was a Mr. Universe at the time.
Can you imagine that? He found this guy. This guy's in California, Schwarzenegger. He finds him in South Africa, flies to South Africa, gets this guy to teach him how to build his calves, built up his calves, win Mr. Olympia. Then he also decides, I could go on forever on Schwarzenegger. Then he decides at some point that he wants to go into politics. Obviously, we know.
Yes.
Into politics. He decides that he had a dream since he was a little boy because he saw John F. Kennedy that he wanted to marry a Kennedy. He married a Kennedy, Maria Shriver.
He did.
Everything this guy has thought about, he's manifested. And he's gone out and not only stumbled upon it, but done the hard work, put in the reps and the sets, as he said, to make it happen. And he had no leg up on any of that stuff.
That is a...
Okay, that's a heartfelt testimony.
That might be the hardest... That might be the heaviest review I've seen DC give. So I'm telling you, I didn't read it for a while because...
I can't believe that.
You know why? Because when I look at it...
It's long.
656 pages. I had not read a book in my life that is that long, combined. But I can't put it down. It's phenomenal.
You're reading it now?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
See? It's about time.
Yes, I'm reading it right now.
See, even when they sit inches from me, it takes this long to get through that thickness of the skull.
I have 7,000 books on at home now, and the problem is I want to read them all, and I look at them all, and they're all phenomenal, and I'm all equally excited about them.
Mm-hmm.
And
these are limiting beliefs.
Limiting beliefs.
That you put in. He can't get to them. He's busy.
He can't get to them. We could talk about that.
G2, I hope you don't have limiting beliefs.
All right. I
want you to leave 6-star reviews.
Yes.
I've given you too much heat today. I've given you Total Recall, Managing Oneself. I drew on a whiteboard here.
What?
I got G2 here filming on multiple cameras. We got the young nephew here, and I need some 6-star reviews, or I will hold those new shows hostage.
What other podcast talks about dieting, learning, growing, careers, books?
Arnold Schwarzenegger? None. Zero.
None.
Just this one. All right, G2, take us out of here.
Also, shout out to you, Christopher Lockheed. Appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. Christopher Lockheed, if you've not read his book, we've talked about it before, Play Bigger. He also has a new book, Niche Down. So I've now mentioned and given you recommendations on a long list of books here, all curated by myself, 6-star reviews. I hope to see you at Hypergrowth, September 4th in Boston, September 24th in San Francisco. Come hang with us. If you're lucky and if you're good, I will introduce you to G2, the man, the myth, the legend.